Welcome to the Lockshield Partners Podcast. We believe in financial literacy and love to provide quality information when it comes to areas around financial planning and how it impacts your life. To learn more about what we do and how we serve our clients, visit us at lockshieldpartners.com.
Dan, welcome back. We've got another edition of our Lockshield Partners podcast today. And today we're going to talk about one of the most common financial vehicles in America, the 401k.
That's right. Or its cousin, the 403b, for people who work for a nonprofit.
That's a lot of numbers.
It's the IRS code.
That's a lot of numbers and letters there. So,
yeah.
Dan, let's just start off with some basics.
We'll just refer to it as 401k.
We'll just do that. So, in essence, a 401k is an employer-sponsored retirement plan.
Right.
Basically meaning that I can't simply go out on the street and just open up a 401k.
Correct. You can go out on the street and open up an individual retirement account, but a 401k is an employer-sponsored plan.
Employer-sponsored plan. So let's maybe, Dan, start with some very basic comparisons, differences, similarities between an IRA, Roth IRA, or a 401k.
Okay.
So let's start with the IRA or Roth IRA.
Okay.
As you stated, that's an individual retirement account.
Right.
Anybody can go open one up and fund one. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to, whatever. There's some various qualifications.
Some income requirements, but yes.
But by and large.
Or limitations.
A 401k is quite a bit different though.
Right. A 401k is a benefit, perk. It's something that your employer offers as a savings vehicle. It really replaced the old pension. That was where the 401k concept came from, which is companies said, gosh, we're having to put millions of dollars into a pension fund. We'd rather shift this liability over to the workers. And in exchange for that, we will gladly, in most cases, give them a match.
So that's where it came from.
That's right.
So then let's talk about contribution limits. 401ks have a much, much higher contribution limit than an IRA does.
That's correct.
IRA.
That's correct.
In the 401k in 2025, the contribution limit is $23,500. Pretty big number.
Good size number, and that's for people under 50.
Under the age of 50. What happens if we're over 50?
You get a catch-up provision. I think this year that number is 31,000.
I think that's right. Yeah, the overall catch-up is 7,500. So if you combine those two amounts, if you're 50 or over, you could have $31,000 of your income automatically deferred into that plan.
Right.
Whereas in an IRA or a Roth IRA, $7,000 a year.
Right. You do get a smaller catch-up. It's $1,000 catch-up. So if I'm over 50, so I could put in $8,000 in an IRA and $31,000 in my 401k based on, there's some income limits and limitations.
But relatively speaking.
Generally speaking.
Right. So when we get into our 401k, we have Roth, we have pre-tax. We've talked about these different tax buckets before. Does that apply to the 401k at all?
Yeah. So the Roth IRA, if you earn over a certain amount of money, you cannot put money in a Roth IRA, but that does not apply to a Roth 401k.
So you can make Roth contributions inside the 401k.
That's exactly right. It can get a little confusing, but the idea is I could put 31,000 or you could put 24,000 or 20, whatever the number is.
23.5.
Changes every year. 23.5 into your 401k and classify it as Roth money, meaning it's included in my income this year.
Tax-free in the future.
It plus the growth is tax-free in the future.
So Dan, you mentioned the match. So not in every case, but I think it's fair to say in the vast majority of the time, employers contribute something to the 401k participants' accounts, whether that's classified as a match or a profit sharing contribution or non-elective or whatever. Right. So for those folks, how is that money treated? Is that Roth money? Is that pre-tax money? What?
Right.
And how do I, as the participant, how am I supposed to know?
Right.
How am I supposed to keep track of that?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to keep track of it. Currently it's all pre-tax. The employer deducts it. It's an expense to them. There's some changes in the law that going forward at some point, we as a participant, you can elect to have that money go into a Roth, but right now that's logistically not practical.
So that money's pre-tax money,
That money's pre-tax, so it grows tax deferred.
meaning at some point when I take money out, I'm paying tax on that
Then it's
money.
taxed to you. And
Still a nice benefit though.
sure, and it's free money.
Right.
And I think even people who don't know a lot about finances will tell you, "Well, I know I should put in to get the match."
One way I like to describe it to clients is when you contribute to your 401k to at least maximize the match, that's a 100% rate of return.
That's pretty good.
I can't find that anywhere else.
We say 10% is a long-term average, and that comes with risk,
Right.
but you're doubling your money right away.
Immediately.
There may be a vesting schedule. So if you were to leave in the first year or two, you may not get to keep all of their money. But the intent is as a reward for our longer term employees to help them save for their future.
That money will be yours eventually.
That's exactly right.
So Dan, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned Roth IRA. So if I'm making Roth contributions in my 401k, there's a lot of confusion out there about this. Does that mean that counts against my $7,000 a year that I can put in my Roth IRA, or are those two totally different buckets?
Two totally different buckets. So if you have enough income to make an IRA contribution, but you don't make too much where you're ineligible for a Roth, you could do both.
You could do both. So that brings me to my next question. What should be the order of savings? If both are allowed, if I could do both, which one is better for me?
Right. So two thoughts. I love Roth IRA money. Tax me once and be done with me. And I love control. An IRA is my individual retirement account. I have control over that money. If I'm eligible to make a Roth IRA contribution, I want to make sure I do that. Where we see a lot of clients, especially if you have two working people, the income phase out, it's fairly high, but it's, people hit it. It's 230, 240 AGI, especially if you're ineligible to make Roth contributions. Then I would really take a good look at your 401k making Roth contributions there.
So if we were to look at a financial textbook, what it would probably tell us would be, if I get a match, I should probably start there.
Absolutely.
I certainly want to maximize my
Got to
match.
take the match.
Once I hit that point, maybe let's hit pause on the 401k, and then let's go to our Roth IRA. If we get to the point where we're maxing that out, great. That's a good problem to have.
Yep.
Then I can come back to my 401k and start increasing the contribution.
That's exactly right. And as we've discussed before, 10% is a healthy target. 15% is great. So for someone who's just starting off in a 401k, it's their first job, it's their first 401k, what do I do here? It'd be really great to start with at least the match. And sometimes it can get confusing to go, when people think, well, I only have so much to save.
Right.
Especially if I'm 20 or 25 or 30 and
we have competing needs, priorities.
Lots of things are after our dollars.
Yeah, no doubt.
Especially when you have kids and
it adds up.
You like to eat and all those
have
things.
A heating bill and whatever.
You like to have a roof over your head.
Right. Yeah. Right. So let's talk maybe, Dan, about some other quick pros and cons on Roth IRA versus 401k. A couple things I always like to note. One huge benefit to the Roth IRA is flexibility. As a general rule of thumb, flexibility, liquidity, control, those are your friend when it comes to your finances.
Absolutely. You never know what's going to happen.
You don't. The downside is you probably have a little more cost, especially if you're paying an advisor or a firm to help you manage that. Yeah. I think the benefits of the 401k are it's easy.
It's easy. Your employer picks up the tab for the plan.
It's attached to your paycheck. So if you make changes, it's a very easy process.
They do all the record keeping.
The downside is it's not very flexible.
Right. You have a list of maybe 20 funds to choose from or 500 funds to choose from. And you don't, that's not your thing.
And then you don't have somebody to help you pick them.
Right. Right.
So let's talk real quick on the funds in a 401k. The most popular is the target date fund.
Yeah, I would say as a default, most companies because as a business owner, I don't want to be in the business of telling my employees where to invest their money. So I'm going to have my whoever does the 401k, they will default them into a target date fund based on their date of birth, unless that participant chooses differently.
And from your point of view, you're going, gosh, I don't want this liability to fall on me if somebody makes a terrible investment decision
Right.
and waste their life savings. And I think on the target date funds, there are some certain positives about it.
It's an easy button solution.
It's a great way to set it and forget it.
Yep.
And it's also one way I like to describe it is it helps to prevent people from making a really bad mistake
Sure.
and going and making a bunch of changes when they really shouldn't.
And you and I know over the course of a 20 or 30-year investing career cycle for somebody in retirement, it takes one mistake
That's it.
to wipe out decades of good decisions.
No doubt. The downside to a target date fund is it's got a bunch of stuff all wrapped together. Stocks, bonds, US, international.
It's a fund of funds. There's a little higher cost. It tends to be more conservative.
That's the one I was going to point out. The essence of the target date fund is as you get closer to your retirement date, it automatically becomes more conservative. Again, it's going to take the risk off of the employer,
which in theory makes sense.
It does, but it typically becomes a little too conservative too early.
Right. It almost assumes you have no other assets.
Right.
Whereas what we would say is in your 401k where you are contributing on an ongoing basis, and if you've done things right at that point, you're contributing a lot. That's where we want to be aggressive.
Right. Crank it up.
Crank it up, especially in a down market. Then we really want to punch the gas. Every time you see a down statement, our favorite financial hack, auto increase, most 401ks will let you go in and say, hey, every birthday, January 1st, whatever, increase my contribution by 1%. The other thing that I would say is whenever you get a down statement and you have parentheses on it, you've lost money, great time to go in and increase it by 1%.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Dan, as we kind of wrap this up, let's close it out by what happens if we leave our employer?
Sure.
We've got this money in the 401k. I decide, we're going somewhere else, we're moving, whatever. My spouse got a different job. Now what happens?
Yeah. So from a plan, you have options. You can leave it there. Well, you can cash it out, which is rarely the right option. You can leave it there, or you can roll it to an IRA. We're in the business of financial planning, so we're biased. But I believe, we would rather have more control over it. So we would rather roll those assets over into an IRA rather than have an old 401k or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that this one may have a target date fund, this one may have whatever, this one has its own different funds. So there's a comprehensive plan behind it.
The other thing I would throw in there too, Dan, when we start to get to the point where we have lots of stuff floating out there, that gets really hard to keep track of. It's really hard to organize and plan for, and it creates an opportunity for a mistake or something to fall through the cracks.
Right. And you don't mind so much in recent years when things are going well, but the issue is a big thing, especially in retirement as we get later in stages, is not making a mistake.
If you have questions about your 401k, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at lockshieldpartners.com.